Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Midweek Burn. I am Evan Fields. And as I told you guys a couple weeks ago, the last couple weeks, we were planning on having guests. And today we are lucky enough to have our first guest. He is the co-founder of Banner and Backbone. He is a fellow veteran. He's a writer, a poet. He is a doer of all things and my friend in this fight for democracy. So I'd like to welcome everybody, Nick Paro. What's going on, Nick? How are you doing?
Hey, Evan. It's great to see you. Thanks for that welcome. And it's so good to be here. I'm glad to be on the show today.
I appreciate you, man. I'm glad to have you. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about a little bit was your prior service.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking about last night, you're a fellow Army veteran, and a lot of people thank us for our service. And sometimes it feels encouraging when you're in the Army. It feels good to hear people say that. But as you get out, and it's something that I found, when you're getting out of the military, there's this weird sort of feeling of being thanked for everything that you did, but not necessarily feeling like you made anything better. And you have this sense of how fragile not only life is, but how fragile other countries and democracies and things like that. Is that something that you experienced and something that kind of drove you towards civil service after your military service?
Yeah. For me, I joined the service and I have a fairly service oriented family, just in general. So my family has a very rich history in military service. For generations of our family, we've had members serve for almost every branch, and mostly Army. Our main focus in our family has always been an Army family. And so I grew up with service as a byline, almost as a standard. And I never felt I had to go into it. In fact, it wasn't my original plan to go into the service. But after all the 9/11 events happened, my oldest brother went to Iraq multiple times. My other brother went to Afghanistan. And I needed to do something. I needed a way to pay off my debts from college. I needed a way to go forward in life. And so I enlisted in the Army. I went into the intel field for service, trained as a human interrogator, learned how to talk to people, basically, and get good information and lead conversations and have very effective conversations with folks. And I had the fortune of when I was deployed. So I went to Afghanistan in 2014 for Operation Enduring Freedom. And I went to Fob Shank, otherwise known as Rocket City. And so I was there towards the tail end, and it often felt like we weren't doing anything and that we weren't really helping. And but I had the fortune of working with counterintelligence folks in my doing cross team work and actually actively supporting the base and making sure that it was safe and helping prevent waste, fraud, and abuse like oil smuggling rings. So I feel like I did something good, at least for us, but it didn't ever feel like we were actually doing any good for the Afghans or the Afghan people. And we didn't change anything in the end. And so it felt kind of sad and disappointing. But at the same time, I knew I volunteered and helped and I tried. And then we'd been living through all this sorts of hate, and like we still are, and reconciling like how I was raised and how after 9/11 everything happened and how much anti-Islamic hate was going on and how much just othering that we were participating in without really understanding it. And I broke away from that, and I went back to school. I got married while I was in the Army. I moved my career forward and really learned that the service afterward, which is what I'm doing right now, because I never went into a civil service afterward specifically. But I think now the civil service that I'm trying to do and what I've figured out is I can communicate well with people and I can connect well with people. And the way that I help is to start my own independent media voice and my own independent community and help connect and collaborate with others. So that was really my big transition into re-entering a service of some sort. Was I couldn't stay quiet, and there were so many voices out there that are saying really bad things that it was worth saying something good and being and finding people who listened and also believe in the same values. And so that's why I got here. Was I needed to do something. And I lost my job. So it was either shut up and do nothing, or be loud and finally take the opportunity to say, well, nobody's holding me back. I may as well do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have a similar background in that I grew up in a military family too. Mine was mostly Air Force. Everybody was all Air Force, and I decided to go the other route. And when you grow
you didn't want
up,
to sit in a chair your career, be Chair Force
that?
officers. You didn't want to be Chair Force?
No, no, thank you. I wanted to work for a living. But
that's fair.
When you grow up in like a military family, there's this kind of weird, like you take it for granted. It's just normal to you, this sense of like service and everything. But when you actually join the military, you do start to appreciate the country more. And I think that you express that in what you were talking about, the things that you realized in your service and coming out of it, and you felt like you had to do something. There's this love for the country that you get, and this appreciation for going through this shit and actually serving your country and coming out of it. And one of the things that you see is like the incredible amount of like different people from different walks of life.
Yeah.
And I think that you get a scope of like what the country is actually like, and you see people from different backgrounds all come together for a common purpose and everything. And that's something that we're missing in politics today. And it's something that I think we're especially missing from our elected officials. And there's beauty in the progress of our country and getting, making things better for people. And I don't think that specifically Republicans are doing that at all right now. And one of the ideas that you talk about that I really appreciate is this idea of conservatives versus regressives, and the idea of like Republicans not conserving anything these days. Can you talk to everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the idea of conservative versus regressive for me is pretty straightforward. Is a conservative conserves something, has something to conserve, to protect, to defend, and improve. And part of conservation is to improve the quality of something and progress it forward. So in my view, conservative and progressive, and this is where regressive comes in, are not opposite ends of the political spectrum. They're in fact parallel and joint ideas that work together. A progressive can be and is often a conservative because they want to conserve something, and to protect, defend, and ensure the longevity of something. You need to actively progress it and make it better and question and be willing to say there are flaws in a system and how can we make them better? How can we conserve this for the long period? Republicans don't do that. Republicans don't conserve unless it's hoarded wealth. And I like to call them dragons because they became dragons. They hoarded too much gold and then they fell in love with it. And now all they do is want to protect their own gold. So they do conserve something, but it's not about they don't conserve the Constitution, and they don't conserve the ideals of the American dream. And that's what I mean when I say somebody is a conservative, like Joe Walsh. Joe is a conservative. He believes in the fundamentals of the Constitution. He believes that people have dignity and value. We disagree on some issues around certain areas. We disagree on language and issues that are going on in Israel. However, At the same time, he has a fundamental concept that we need to do this within a constitutional and democratic republic system. And regressive conservatives that are elected in all the offices right now don't do that. They just regress. They go backwards. They want to take away. Everything is about taking away, and the opposite of progress is regression, not Congress or conservation. Like I was always taught the slang growing up, and it was the joke of the opposite of progress is Congress. Well, the opposite of progress is a regressive in Congress. And we have a lot of regressives in Congress, and they just want to take things. So that's where I'm coming from on it, is like a conservative wants to do something. And conservative is a loaded term and comes with a lot of baggage for a lot of people, and it can be really hurtful, and it's a really destructive word for some people. And I'm trying to move away from it, because we need to move away from the old labels that are holding us back, like conservative and liberal. More people identify as being a progressive than a liberal. They mean similar things, but I'd rather people identify with something. I want people to be able to identify not just tribally as a group, but as Americans. And the idea that we're going backwards in time and removing rights and taking away things, taking away food benefits, taking away social health benefits, services, things that citizens require and rely on, and what the government is supposed to provide for us, and is the contract that we built with the government for those provisions. They're breaking that contract, and so they're regressing to a period when we had less. So that's why I call them regressives now, because they just want to take more so that they can hoard it like dragons. But that doesn't conserve anything. It's destructive, and we need to fight back against it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we've seen it everywhere, from the local level all the way up to the Supreme Court. What do you see as, we've seen a lot of this go on in the last decade, but what do you see as the main turning point that shifted Republicans from conserving the Constitution and that sort of John McCain thing? Was it Trump that, led them down this path of like just greed and just simply conserving for the top 1% and regressing everybody else's rights and ability to live a normal American life? Do you think that he's the main culprit of that?
I think Trump is a symptom of the system that has made him. It was around before him. To be totally honest, it's been around since the Civil War or before. But the founding ideals of our country are our founding fathers pledged their honors, lives, and wealth together to form America, to form a nation. They pledged their wealth, their lives. They gave it all away to the American system to make it happen. It's the exact opposite is what's going on right now. They are regressing back to kingship and back to fiefdoms and dictatorial bullshit. And I'm just tired of that. I think it's been around for a long time, but I think Trump, to answer the big question, is I think Trump is a symptom of all of this. I think really the main cause, and I'm coming to really think this is the main cause when the true event happened, was Reagan era, was the Iran-Contra deal, and around the reporting that Zev Shalev does on narrative.org for The Greatest Heist, is when we allowed that arms deal to go through and create a war so that conservatives could build power for whatever hate infrastructure they wanted, because that sparked beginnings of a lot of the underlying racism that led to 9/11. I mean, that directly led to the creation of some of these extremist areas that produced 9/11 and bad actors. We built ISIS and other organizations like that through these things. And I think it's all just been a coordinated takeover of, since Iran-Contra and all of that, of the last 40, 50 years where Russia said they were going to attack us without and take America down without ever putting a service member on the ground in our country. They knew they could not take us over by force of might from an endless swarm of Russians. But they did know that they could take us over from within, and they did it. And that's where I think that's where it really stems from, is from the Reagan era and the Iran-Contra deal, and which led to the Heritage Foundation and all of these ultra-conservative groups funded by Russia, and the NRA funded by Russia, and the far-right churches funded by Russia, and the infiltration of our media infrastructure funded by Russia, the takeover of Israel funded by Russia, which then took over a lot of American infrastructure through AIPAC and things like that. So I think it's Russia, and we're at war, and we're too arrogant to admit it in the US that we're in a fifth generation information and digital war right now. Before there becomes a boots on the ground war and a world war, we have to fight an information war, and we're losing in a lot of ways. But what I think we're doing right now is countering that, and is winning, and is fighting back, and is us going on offense. And that's really why I got into this. I needed to go on offense about it.
Is one of the things that one of the great things that you pointed out is I do think that this has been such a long process and a long plan, and it began back with Reagan and everything, and with the trickle down economics and the slashing of the fairness doctrine and the creation of Fox News. I think it was Reagan was the one that gave Rupert Murdoch citizenship.
It was.
And so one of the things that I don't think that they counted on was the advancement of technology and the amount of information that regular people have access to, and the ability that I think it's created this ecosystem of independent media, like you were just saying. And that's our way of fighting back in this war on information and everything. What exactly was it? Were you always interested in politics? Was it something that you saw an opening for? Was it something that came about like in your service? What drove you towards independent media and wanting to like use your voice to get out there and like fight back against what you saw?
Yeah. Well, first I'm going to answer a question in the chat. No, it's not a done deal, and we're not fucked. We are not to the point where we have lost. We're not to the point where either we've lost in America or around the world. We're not to the point where we have to go to shooting each other in this country. There's so much more that still is going to be done. And to answer your question, I've always been kind of pretty political. I've always been very outspoken. I'm ADHD. I have a very high sense of morality. I have always known, at least instinctually to me, what is right and wrong. And that there are shades in between of what is right and wrong and how to get there. And I've never been afraid to not speak my mind until I was bullied for almost 2 years at work by someone who is basically a MAGA person in real life. He's a little mini Donald Trump style tyrant, and he bullied the shit out of me at a job that I loved. And it ended up being one of the main reasons I'm not in the tech field anymore. And I hated it. I hated it. I went to 2 years of therapy. And at the same time I was doing it, I was like, so many other people who don't have access to the same tools that I do right now to help myself heal and grow don't have the ability to do that. Like I'm now counting myself lucky because I'm a veteran who has access to the VA and disability benefits and a healthcare system that is socialized, that I don't pay out of pocket for anything. I go to the hospital and I come home if I need to. Like I don't get hospital bills and I don't get medication bills. And I've always thought everybody should have access to that too. It seems dumb that they don't. And so I've always been pretty outspoken about it. And then I lost my job in the summer. Actually, the 4th of July was my last day. Fairly ironic. Is my last day was 4th of July. So I've spent it since then pretty much just using my voice as loudly and as proudly as I can. And my wife got tired of me ranting at her. So I started ranting online. And she was like, you need to do something else other than rant at me. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go rant online and I can be maybe a positive force. And so June, July-ish, I really started doing this and talking about it and putting my ideas out there. And I was tired of not hearing good ideas about men. And like, I'm sick of listening to having to always hear men are evil, men are bad, men shouldn't stop giving men microphones, things like that. Well, the problem is we put ourselves in this hole where the only men that had microphones were the idiots who didn't listen to that, and they just suck and they just put out toxic and bad ideas. And I was like, you know what? Screw that. I can be authoritative and right and put out good ideas. And I think I can add value. And so I did. And people started loving it. And I haven't stopped. In fact, I've gotten more opinionated and more into it at this point. And I love it. I love being able to do this and get to talk to folks and put these ideas out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so grateful for it too. You know what I mean? It's almost like you just have to take that first step. It's like I try to tell everybody else, you just have to do it, because I was scared as shit doing this and everything too. Like I've told you before, like I was searching and clawing and scratching, trying to find something to do, what I was going to do with my life and try how to make this better and everything. And I just stumbled into Rick and asked him what to do and how to get going. And I think that it has turned into a sense of service and trying to be one of those voices. And that's all those people were doing too, is they were too stupid to realize how ignorant they were, and they got popular and their ideas got out there and everything. But who are some of the people that you see right now? I know we've got probably 8 minutes left, but who are some of the people that you see, whether elected officials or people in the media, that you kind of respect as far as like promoting progressive values, doing the right thing, or just like you said, filling that space of men who aren't shitbags and who have empathy?
Yeah, well, I think I'll self-promote myself a little bit, as I think
Absolutely,
we're doing at Banner and Backbone is incredibly powerful for men and women to have a space where they feel accepted and welcome and can be vocal and politically honest. And that's why I started Banner and Backbone, and I'm one of the co-founders there. So I'll self-promote that. But I think other networks, like I was just on with Blue Amp Media, with Cliff Schechter and David Schuster. That was incredibly fun. And they are doing a lot of really good work, and they're contributing back to other platforms. I think Lincoln Square is doing an incredible job. And I love the work that Rick is doing, and I think they're going in a great direction. I think a lot of people had criticism of Lincoln Square for a while, or Lincoln Project. I know they're slightly different from each other, and I don't know the exact details on their differences, but I know Lincoln Square has taken off in a really positive way, and people are seeing the impact of it. Or even groups like Save America Movement, where I helped participate in the response to Mark Kelly's and the Democratic senator or representatives and senators and elected officials saying, do not obey illegal orders. You do not have to. Your oath is to the Constitution and not a king. You are obligated to not follow an illegal order. You do not have to follow them. And in fact, you cannot follow legal orders too. It's just called insubordination. And then it goes from there. Like, go stand up for yourself. And so I've started promoting groups like that. I think they're doing incredible work. The Find Out podcast, I love the work that they're doing. I get to work with Chris Goldsmith and every Friday for the Anti-Fascist Book Club on Banner and Backbone, which is based off of his Veterans Fighting Fascism and Task Force Butler manual. So I think I love cross-promoting other veterans who are doing work. But I also think like people like Ellie Leonard, Melissa Corrigan, Shane Yerrick, Walter Ryan. I think, Evan, you would really like Walter. He has some really unapologetic progressive values. And he's a rural Democrat. He's grown up in the toxicity, and he likes to dispel the myth of rural America, and break down the lies of the white supremacy around it. I think you'd find him really interesting. But groups like that, like the work we're doing, I think so many of us are coming out here. You are doing an incredible job. Like this is what we needed. Was there was a void in the discussion space where all it's being done is being filled by right-wing voices. It's being filled by Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate and all, and like the manosphere shit that goes on, and it's gross. And I want a manosphere where people actually want to come and hang out. Like I want a space where men can have fun and men feel included, but also realize that it's a place for everyone. Like I want it to feel like a fun place for all, but know that like I promote a lot of my content towards men, but my audience has a lot of women in it because I respect them. And I respect my audience, and I don't use derogatory language towards women when I speak and different things like that. And I've found creators who do the similar things to help build up our infrastructure. And I'm really trying to create a system and help be part of a system. Yeah, well, absolutely. Some women are veterans as well. Plenty of women are veterans. My wife's a veteran. One of my favorite people in the world that I talk to almost every day, Melissa Corrigan, is one of the best veterans out there. In fact, go follow her on Counterstory Media. She's incredible. Like that's that's what I do for my platform. That's what I want for mine, is to boost others and to help grow others around me while I'm growing. Because if I can, like Lincoln Square, Find Out Podcast, groups like you guys, like the bigger organizations that you help contribute to and that you're a part of as well, are the umbrella for us. They give us the space to be able to come out here and hopefully get picked up as contributors for them, or as partners and just friends in the ecosphere. Because I'm not competing with anybody out here. I'm not competing with Lincoln Square. I'm never going to be Lincoln Square. Would I love to work alongside them? Abso-fucking-lutely yes, because they have a message that is pro-democracy, that is pro-rights and pro-dignity and pro-freedom. And those are the people I've latched onto. Those who are advocating from the heart and are just authentically advocating for an America where we actually have an American dream again, and it's not robbed by the robber barons.
Yep. And that's what I think, that's what it was missing. We had that, there was that infrastructure of like kind of those bigger umbrella organizations, like the people that had access and everything. And I think people like yourself, people like Shane, people like Melissa, places like Banner and Backbone here at News from Underground, I feel like these sort of like smaller communities that are underneath that umbrella, I feel like we're starting to fill out that infrastructure. And there's the last few months, I felt like there's a real movement going on. And I feel like we're really going to have something heading into 2026 in the midterms. And I think that independent media and voices like yourself are definitely going to be a huge part of that. And I look forward to not only that, but a future where we actually have a competent government in place that supports media through things like grants and loans and things like that will only help us in the future.
But and an infrastructure just an infrastructure of politicians or even programs that are progressive in nature that want to fund media networks and media organizations and just and small independent creators. Like, I won't shit on any networks while I'm here, but I think there are some that are doing way, way better at giving back to the creator community. And that's what we need more of, because the right just throws money at creators, good or bad, whereas the left and progressives are like, here's your money, maybe, with strings attached.
We can't wait for the magical billionaire to come around and fund us, because it's not going to happen, because they don't agree with any of the policies or anything that we're promoting. So we need some of those bigger millionaire organizations to kind of, trickle down those economics to the creators, support them and everything. And with that, tell everybody how they can support you, how they can support Banner and Backbone, and not only that, how they can support Sick of This Shit, because I want everybody to check out your personal work too and tell them a little bit about that writing and everything separate from Banner and Backbone.
Yeah, so I'll do Banner and Backbone first. That's my media network. That's that's a publication where I'm building a collaborative space for a ton of other creators to help come together and get ideas out and platform each other, like Centered America, Melissa Corrigan, Ellie Leonard, Shane Urich, Walter Ryan, Lawrence Winterman, anyone else who's associated with us there. So that's one home. That's bannerandbackbone.com, easy to find. And then my other one, which is where I started out here on, is sickofthis.substack.com, or Sick of This Shit Publications. And that's my home where I do poetry, more of my creative side, and where I talk a lot about chronic illness and chronic health issues, and community building. And I love doing that work there. I've gotten to meet some incredible people through that, but I love being able to write poetry. I studied music when I was in college the first time. My grandfather wrote poetry when he was in World War II. And so I have a book of his poetry. And so there's always been poetic license in our family to do stuff. And I figured may as well try and put it out there. And I got some really good responses from it. And that's how a lot of people came to know me, because I just put my feelings into poetry and said, let's go. And so that's what I want to be able to do too, is write a book on poetry. And I want men to know that it's okay to do things like that. Like, you can be a strong man who protects, defends, and provides for himself and his family and those around him, while being sensitive and creative and artistic and expressing yourself positively, because that's how you do it. That's how you positively affect yourself and those around you. And so my home is sickofthis.substack.com. That's where you can find me doing all sorts of stuff where I'm loud, I'm proud, and I'm happy about doing it.
I love it, man. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you being the first guest on the Midweek Bird, man. This was awesome.
Yeah.
You've always supported me. You've always been great to me. We've built a great friendship on here. And one thing that I want to mention is you talked about empathy and being sensitive and everything. And one message that I want to put out there is we talk about being leaders as men and everything. And there's this epidemic of incels and just little kids, just not little kids, but teenagers just generally being mad at girls and everything. And I promise you kids, everything that Nick just said is what gets you laid. I promise you. If you treat women with respect, if you have empathy, if you show your sensitive side and everything, girls will talk to you and it'll be okay. That's how.
Yeah, I've been married for 10 years, almost going on 11 here soon. I think I know what I'm talking about. Like, I have
worked out for you so far.
Yeah, I've got a stable, happy marriage. I'm super, like, I love my wife. I love my kids. You know how I do that? I listen, I communicate, I empathize, and I learn. Men, it's okay. It's okay to do those things.
Therapy, and you survived, and you're all right.
Yeah, and it didn't make me weird. I'm just happy to be who I am, and that's okay. All you regressive Republicans who are hiding what you're afraid of in yourselves, stop. It's okay. It's 2025. If you're gay, if you're lesbian, if you're whatever, go be that. You. Live your truth. Just stop hurting the rest of us.
Mike Johnson. All right, Nick. I appreciate you, man.
Lindsey Graham.
One. I love you, brother. You be good. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Evan, so much.
Take care, guys.